opportunity today to interview a gentleman whom I have a great deal of respect for. He is a father, he is a grandfather, he's a foster father, and he is a caretaker for his mother. He's also a poet, a very, very good brother. And this is the things that you do not see on regular television. The black men out in the community who are doing great works and who's making a difference. And that is why these kind of broadcasts are essential, that we can tell our story and that people can see those things happening. And without further ado, I would like to introduce to you all Mr. Tony Brinkley. Tony, how are you doing today?
Good, bro. How are you doing?
I am doing great.
Yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Well, I'm retired, and I love that part. And I'm a spoken word artist and a storyteller. I've actually been on stages in different parts of the country, telling stories, and I've traveled around doing poetry in different parts of the country. But since I retired, one of the things I always wanted to do was work with young males and provide guidance from them. And I found this organization called the 100 Black Men of Tulsa. It's a subgroup of the 100 Black Men of America. It's all across the nation.
Right, I'm familiar with that group.
But we do a lot of mentoring with youth, and our aim is to improve the conditions of the black community. And that's one of the things I've been active in that, and I love it. It gives me an avenue to do a lot of the things I always wanted to do. I mean, I've always worked with kids. I coached for like 20 years, working with young men. And it took me about 3 or 4 years of that coaching to realize that I was a father figure for these boys. And I didn't think about that. I was thinking I was a coach. But I came to see how much they relied on me, and then I realized, because in 20 years, bro, 20 years, not one time did I see 2 fathers at a game. So I realized that fathers were absent from these kids' lives. And so it became more than just basketball. I talked to them about life and everything. But and I've taken in kids that weren't mine, that friends of my sons that came to live with me from high school on, and one of them still has a key. He's still he's 27 now, but he still comes in here. He's family.
Yeah.
But that's I've always done that. But what I like about the 100 Black Men is we have an intentional intervention with young kids. So I told them I'd rather work with the grade school kids because it's easier to mold them than to try to get them to unlearn some of the things they do when they're high school kids.
Yeah, I can imagine. I'm familiar with 100 Black Men because I've never been a part of it, but I am familiar with it. And like you said, they're all over. Now look, you're a poet. How long have you been a poet? And how do I want to say that? What drew your interest to becoming a poet?
I will say that like in the 4th grade, I wrote a poem that was put into the Weekly Reader. I mean, I've always had aptitude, but I didn't really think about it that much because I knew I was going to be a mathematician, an engineer, But what got me into poetry is at the end of a 17-year marriage, how you go through those, I don't know if you know, but it was that point where things were just constantly we were at each other's throat, and it was coming to an end. And after a particularly bad argument, I laid down and went to sleep. And in my sleep, my grandfather, who's been long dead, he was the father figure in my life, but he came to me in that dream and spoke to me. And when I woke up, I sat down and wrote what became my first spoken word piece. And it was a compromise, a peace offering to what became my ex-wife, where I said, let's end this thing gracefully. For like two people who at least still like one another, so that our sons won't experience all this turmoil. And it didn't stop the divorce, but things became easier. And anyway, so I wrote that and something else, and I would read it to people, and they said they liked it. And so that's how I got into writing poetry. And my first poems were about love, heartache, and all that. And then eventually I branched out into different things. And my favorite subject is the fate of the black diaspora. So I've written a lot of poems about that one also. But that's what got me into poetry. Yeah.
Now, you are a native of Tulsa, is that correct?
Yes, I am.
Okay. I'm from East St. Louis, and here we hear everyone talking about Black Wall Street, 1921, and next year is going to be the centennial of the massacre.
Right.
I'm actually on a committee, the New Black Wall Street Oklahoma committee, and so we'll be doing that. As a matter of fact, they have a website, www.nbwstok.com. So if people want to look that up, you can go out to the website and look at that, and I'll also post it in the video as well. How old were you when you found out about the 1921 Tulsa race massacre?
How old was I? Like I said, I grew up here, and the whole time, even through high school, I had never heard of the massacre, never even heard of a Black Wall Street or any of that. It wasn't until I joined the military and came back, and sometime in that period, in my early to mid-20s, I heard about it. And I was like, what? When did this happen? It was such a shock. And I've since researched it. I'm doing I'm part of a group that's doing a presentation for the Greenwood Art Project for the centennial.
Okay.
But I think what happened, I'm aware of what happened in St. Louis. And
East St. Louis?
East St. Louis.
Yeah.
And I read about what they call the Red Summer. And during that period from 1917 to 1923, it happened all across America, where black communities were attacked and razed and destroyed by angry whites. And I looked at the time period as a period of a lot of turmoil, a lot of uncertainty for everybody. And for them, they were angry, they were frustrated, and we were easy targets.
Yeah.
And especially Black Wall Street, they were thriving when things weren't going so good for some of those other guys.
Right.
And so it built up those animosities, and all it needed was that spark, which happened, and we all know what happened after that.
You said that you had never heard of Black Wall Street. However, I have spoken to a lot of people who live here in Tulsa. As a matter of fact, your sister, and she was telling me that over here on the north side, you all had a lot of different businesses over here where you didn't really have to go downtown. Is so what was that like, and what kind of businesses and things that you have over here at that time?
Well, I guess we still had the vestiges of
Okay.
that mindset of, buying from black people, and there were not just black companies. There were white companies here that we bought, but there were like, I think I was 14, 15 years old when conditions became such that I could actually walk into a white establishment and not be escorted out. And I think that the novelty of being able to do that, plus the fact that they brought in, you've seen the urban interdispersal loop, right? That huge expressway, which
Is that 244?
yes,
Yeah.
which necessitated
Yes.
destroying a lot of the area along Black Wall Street.
Yes.
And I'm of the mind that it was intentional because it's been done all across the country.
It's done all across the country.
But that plus, the lure, the newness of being able to shop at white places.
Uh-huh.
And, mom and pop, I don't care if it's black, white, green, whatever, can't compete with Walmart. And those huge chain department stores were like Walmart, and the prices were better and all of that. And I think the reason why everybody forgot about Black Wall Street is that it was a stain on the goodness of white Tulsa, that they wanted to just wipe out and pretend it never happened. And it was a reminder of how helpless black people are, that they wanted to just forget about it, that hammer that was constantly hanging over them, and just not talk about it. And I think those two factors contributed the most to the fact that my generation knew nothing about Black Wall Street. And, because, they actually, despite all the obstacles that were placed in the path, they actually rebuilt Black Wall Street.
Right.
And it thrived for a period after that. But the urban renewal, urban removal.
Or as we called it, Negro removal.
Yeah, I call it urban removal.
Yeah.
The expressway, people don't think about, when you bring in an expressway, you have to cut a wide swath through there. And a lot of those buildings, they aren't there anymore. Plus, the primary movers and shakers like O.W. Gurley, J.B. Stratford, they knew there was a price on their head.
Oh, yeah.
And they never came back.
Yeah, they had to get out of here.
And so when you lose those primary movers and shakers, it does something to your direction.
Yeah.
And all of that, the confluence of all those things, and then you throw in integration, which black people start thinking, well, maybe if I do this, they'll accept me, All of that contributed to the demise of Black Wall Street, and eventually the demise of, now there are essentially no black businesses, no black owned grocery stores, no black owned theaters, no black owned pharmacies, none of those things that existed are around anymore.
Yeah, 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 and they're not. And with that said, you know, again, we're going through a gentrification thing, which is just the update of the urban renewal or the Negro removal. It's just a different name that they're doing, and we get that with the unrest, the Black Lives Movement, and with George Floyd and Breonna Taylor and so on and so forth. We're seeing now young people. There's a resurrection again in more radical approaches and defunding the police and so on and so forth. And that being said, in your opinion, what do you feel we need to do as African people to get to the point to where we gain our true independence and liberation?
I think the primary thing we need to do is be intentional about building up each other. That if you have the mindset that we're going to do this, we can do this, I believe in you, you believe in me, and we interact with each other and we orbit around each other with that mindset, then what others try to do is going to be diminished. But the problem I see is that we have all this distrust amongst each other, and we don't intentionally seek out doing for each other. We don't intentionally seek out black-owned businesses. To the contrary, we say, I ain't, no, you can't, no, I ain't using nobody black. They don't do the job right. Even though when I point out to these people, I said, so you've never had somebody white do a job for you that was shoddy? Yeah, but I said, no, but if a black person did, it magnifies in your head that black people don't do good work. Look in the mirror.
Yeah.
What color are you?
Yeah.
So are you saying you don't do good work?
Yep.
You know, but that is the primary thing we need to do is change that mindset.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, and I'm thinking, what is it that we can do that's simplistic that will get us to the point of where we begin to once again trust one another and believe in one another? And Tony, one of the things that I've done, I thought about this real hard. So I said, what I'm going to do, and I do it. And it's really interesting to get the reaction. I make sure when I'm out, when I see black people, I speak to them. I speak to them, and I have a smile on my face, and the way I say it with enthusiasm. Mm-hmm. And this shocked a lot of people. A lot of people will, you know, when you first, hey, how you doing? It takes them back. And I think those are some of the things that we do. So I tell people, that's what I have in my tool bag. Every time I see some black people, I'm going to speak to them, and I'm going to say it in a way where it's going to be joyous. But we are going to get there. Because, again, I see the young people rising up. I see you doing what you're doing. There's other people doing what they're doing. But the word, that's why this broadcast is so important, because we have to get the word out so that it's coming from us and not from anyone else. So, with that said, is there anything else that you would like to add in conclusion?
You know, which topic? There. Poetry.
Can you ad-lib?
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't be ad-libbing. It's a poem that's germane to the subject.
With that said,
the Black Wall Street thing.
Can you close us out with the poem then?
Yeah. This piece is called Black Power with a question mark. Marcus Garvey once said, "Be not concerned with straightening those kinks in your hair. Instead, seek you to unravel those kinks in your mind." See, I remember when it was a thing to say Black Power when the revolution comes and such. Well, much has happened since those days, and we now know that most of the voices were just hoisted up hollow echoes reverberating from the backs of whitewashed brains as they strained like chameleonic geckos to imitate the flavor of the moment, not to initiate and foment real change. Nah, brother. They were just parrots who wanted to hang and pretend that the winds of revolution blew through their souls, while the holes, the gaps that exposed the reality of black life grew ever wider. And though I was never proud of my people that when we gather for feasts of hope, I'd rather not have smelled the reeks of dope that clouded our chances. Yeah, I tried to romance it, rationalize it helped to free the mind, but it's hard to find solidity rising from the haze of stupidity that whole trip became. It only served to wane our passion and happened to fit the agenda of J. Edgar Hoover, who easily maneuvered us into a more passive and less threatening mode as suddenly a whole motherload of that stuff was here, and Hoover's fears of a black revolution disappeared as revolutionary fever became lustful fervor, speared like those truckloads of white women who also suddenly appeared, reared up to engulf the revolution. Drugs and sex became the solution, and the devolution of black power was sealed as the true soldiers were killed. You know who they are, Hampton them. Locked up and turned. Change was turned under because, unlike us, the machine seemed ready to use any means necessary to maintain the status quo. Those below, stay below. That's the way it is, and the years tend to bear this out. The clout remains with the elite while we keep butting our heads on this invisible ceiling, unwilling to ask the question if maybe, just maybe, our lifestyles are killing our chance to advance beyond syncopated, syncopathetic clones who own not a damn thing as we're blinded by the bling bling, pursuing the material, ensuring we'll be serial buyers, searching for the newest flavor that we'll never get to savor because the next best thing is on the horizon, and you know we got to get our hands on. Bro, do you understand what I'm trying to say? I'm trying to get through to you something new to you that was new to me, and I want you to see the epiphany, the insight unveiled about the tales and travails of a people who've been assailed constantly, sometimes invisibly, by a system that's designed to grind any vestiges of true progress. Any movement that tries to assess or address the needs of France Fanon's wretched of the earth, and that's us. And the dearth of understanding is a planned thing. The machine gives not a damn thing about your well-being, just seeing that its leaders there at the reins. It explains why Tulsa's Greenwood had to be raised. A movement that praised black entrepreneur? Hey, that could result in enduring visions of ownership and strength. And a system bent on control could not allow the rearranging and changing of the downtrodden's mindset. So you can bet the massacre had an engineered ring. So what am I saying? I'm asking you not to bring a hollow head to the table, because that allows others to easily reroute your resolve to determine your own direction. Please do not be sidetracked. Never forget, in a capitalistic society, the battle is waged financially. And thus you can see the true devastation caused by the destruction of black Tulsans' financial mindset. Because now, today, in 1920, where do we shop? With anybody but other black Tulsans. Mission accomplished. You know, our bling bling obsession reminds me of that scene from Shaka Zulu. I don't know if you ever saw that movie, where Shaka was disillusioned and disappointed and looked at the British soldier and asked, "Gomani, how do you trap a monkey? You build a cage. Then you place something shiny inside that cage. You make it so that monkey can reach in and grasp that shiny thing, but can't get his hand out with that shiny thing in it. That monkey will let you trap him before he releases his shiny thing." And that so reminds me of us. As over and over, we keep trapping ourselves, trying to keep a grip on shiny trinkets like the newest cars, the newest clothes, the newest jewelry, the newest whatever, so that we never save ourselves out of debt. Listen, the Emancipation Proclamation did not set us free. Juneteenth did not set us free. The absence of cages, the absence of bars does not mean you're free. Any farmer can tell you, if you keep them caged up long enough, they'll eventually come to think of their place as home. Then you can unlock the doors, fling them wide open. They might go out, roam around a bit, but they'll return themselves to their cage. How long will we continue to trap ourselves in this helpless, hopeless merry-go-round? Freedom begins up here. If you free your mind, your behind, your respect, and most importantly, your children will follow.
Tony B.